Good evening. I'm Jason Fink, moderator for this evening's forum and President and CEO of the Williamsport Lycoming Chamber of Commerce. We welcome those watching this evening's live stream forum for candidates running for Williamsport City Council. This forum is brought to you by the League of Women Voters and Williamsport Sun Gazette. The League is proud to be nonpartisan, neither supporting nor opposing candidates or political parties at any level of government, but always working on vital issues of concern to members and the public, which is in line with the League's mission of empowering voters, defending democracy. At this time, I'd like to provide a rundown on the forum and the rules for this evening. Each candidate drew numbers for seating position. Candidates will answer for their seats. An opening statement of 2 minutes will begin in their seated order. Questions with a response time of 2 minutes will be addressed to all candidates. A closing statement of 2 minutes will begin in reverse seated order. The questions for this evening were prepared by representatives of the League of Women Voters and Williamsport Sun Gazette. Timekeepers will use signs to alert the moderator and candidates as to when they have 30 seconds remaining for their responses and when to stop. Candidates will be allowed to finish a sentence once started, but we will enforce strict time limits. At this time, I'd like to introduce you to the candidates participating in this evening's forum. From left to right, Jenna Longo, Bill Hall, David Banks, Liz Mealy. Now that we know the format and have been introduced to the candidates, let's get started with our program. We'll begin with our opening statements and start with Jenna.
Thank you. First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters and the Sun Gazette for making this forum possible. It's so important for the candidates to be able to speak with the voters, and if you didn't do this, we wouldn't be able to do it on this scale, so thank you. It's much appreciated. Williamsport is an incredible city to live in. It's the birthplace of Little League. It's home to First Friday, the Growers Market on Saturday, and it has such a strong sense of community. My name is Gina Longo, and I'm running for City Council. I'm a homeowner in the Newberry section of the city, and I've been a practicing attorney for 16 years. I founded my own practice, Longo Law, and that's in downtown Williamsport. I represent everyday people and their problems in my general practice. Prior to that, I was an attorney at for the DEP, where I waded through complex environmental policies and regulations. I collaborated with local and governments, municipalities, other state agencies. I was an assistant public defender in Lycoming County. And before that, I worked as an attorney advisor with the Small Business Administration, assisting businesses who were negatively impacted by Hurricane Katrina. I was recently elected by the Lycoming Law Association to serve on the executive board. The bottom line is I am a no-nonsense negotiator who will fight to improve the quality of life for all of Williamsport, every business, every neighborhood, and every hardworking taxpayer.
Thank you, Gina. Bill.
Hi, I'm Bill Hall. I was on City Council for 12 years serving as Finance Chair, Vice President, then President of City Council. Helped shepherd a number of programs and projects through I call it the renaissance or the rebuilding of downtown Williamsport and other parts of Williamsport. I noticed my name is on the plaque downstairs. I never noticed that before when I came upstairs. I think yours is there too, Liz. Market Street Bridge, Arch Street Bridge, Downtown Cinema, Coles, Church Street Parking Deck, Grove Street Commons, Memorial Homes. There's a bunch more that I don't remember. I'm interested in running for council again because of the American Rescue Plan, $26 million that the city is receiving from the federal government, which is equivalent to about one full annual budget of the city. And I want to be part of having some kind of say in where that goes, how it's spent, and how it can benefit the people of the city of Williamsport. That's why I'm running. So,
Thank you, Bill.
thank you.
David.
Good evening, everyone at home. In addition to the Sun Gazette and the League of Women Voters, I want to thank you, Mr. Fink, for hosting this. not an easy job to wrangle for a potential politician, two current and two potential. So, yeah, I'm David Banks. I'm a current land survey designer. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran, current member of City Council. On City Council, I serve on the Public Works Committee, the Williamsport Area Transportation Study Committee, and I am the current chair of the Economic Revitalization Committee. I served 60 years in the United States Navy as a mission manager and language analyst. I grew up in Old Lycoming Township, graduated from both Lycoming College and Penn College, and I've lived in the city for most of my adult life. I love this city, and I'm compelled to continue to help it grow and thrive. Over the past 22 months, City Council has been working with the administration in a nonpartisan manner to kind of right the ship put off course by the previous administration. We've been successful on many fronts, and coming out of that effort, the focus needs to shift to broadening our tax base with long-term planning and incentivizing development throughout the city. The incumbents on stage tonight, Liz and I, were part of the coalition last year, along with Councilman Mackey, that was able to cut the proposed millage rate increase in last year's budget by 1.75 mils. And so we're watching the budget. We're doing the job now. We'll be on top of it again this year. The bottom line is that I have the experience, the knowledge base, and the established relationships to get the job done and to continue getting the job done. We have initiatives, Liz and I, to expand the tax base, and we will continue to work on that going forward. But that's really the only way out of our taxation problems is growing, because we've cut and cut and cut, and we just can't cut past the bone. So, my name is David Banks. I'm running for City Council, and I'd appreciate your vote.
Thank you, David. Liz.
Okay. Hi, I'm Liz Mealy, and like everyone else, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and the Sun Gazette for organizing this debate. I served on City Council for 12 years now, and discovered in that time that while it's the national issues that get people worked up, it's local government that actually affects your life the most. And so I think it's exceptionally important that people hear from the people running for local offices before they cast their ballot. So thank you very much for putting tonight's event together. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in the city of Williamsport, and I've been here almost my entire life, which is shocking to me sometimes as my life gets longer. I was educated at Williamsport Area High School, left Williamsport for a little while to attend Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island, and then wandered the planet for a bit. I worked in Italy for a while until I landed back here in my mid-20s and started working in my mom's restaurant in the kitchen, the Peter Herdick House, which is just a couple of blocks away from here. She thought I was crazy, but it stuck. And now I'm part owner of the restaurant. I also own a rental property in the historic district, a home in the city, and I have 3 small children who are going to be starting school in the city of Williamsport here shortly. All of that is a very long-winded way of saying that not only do I want what's best for the community, because it's just in my blood and it's something that I like working toward for the city, I also want what's best for the community because, frankly, it is also what's best for me. And I want to see Williamsport thrive. It's an important city. It's a great city, and I need it to be an even better city for my children. As I said, I've served on council for 12 years, and I currently chair the Finance Committee, and I'm the Vice President of City Council, behind Randy Allison, who couldn't be here this evening.
Thank you, Liz. We appreciate all of your opening comments and the opportunity to get a little bit better understanding of what who you are and what you're looking to do in running. At this time, we are going to begin with our first question. And that first question will be given to Bill to answer first. That question is, Bill, how do you believe the issues with City Hall, such as the disrepair and lack of maintenance, should be resolved, and what measures would you put in place to prevent this from happening in the future?
I think I spent 12 years on City Council recommending that we move out of City Hall. I guess I left council 5 years ago, and we're still in that money pit. I would get out of there as soon as I could, put it on the market, get as much money as I could from it, and relocate to other buildings, which I think we mostly have done, if I understand the newspaper correctly, except perhaps the police, and maybe a permanent place for the mayor's office, but I might be wrong about that. But as I said 12 years ago and 5 years ago and today, get out of it.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that work for you?
Yep, that
Okay,
works.
okay.
That definitely works. David?
So it's a little more complex than that, unfortunately, as most things are. We had made a decision on City Hall following the ad hoc committee's suggestion to stay in City Hall. That was prior to us knowing about the leak issues, and that was an issue from previous administration, previous groupings of council, wherein the roof wasn't finished completely. You know, it was only done part way, and so there's a number of issues that we have to address. You know, if any of you were paying attention to the ad hoc committee, they did their due diligence on City Hall at that time. Unfortunately, like I said before, it came to pass that due diligence didn't take into account the roof issues. So
The rainy season.
the rainy season. Right. Yeah, it's our whole. We have a
The way of life.
arboreum for mycelium now in the whole city. But it's a complex issue. So what I would like to do is the thing that is in the best interest of the taxpayer. So if it comes to pass that, you know, finishing City Hall and making it compliant and staying in that building is the best thing financially, then we'll do that. We'll make that decision. If it's not, then we'll stay where we are. But there's a number of legal issues we need to figure out with moving. So it's not as simple as what I want. It's more fact-based, and we need more data on it.
Okay. Thank you, David.
Okay.
Liz?
You might have gotten the sense from Dave that this actually is not a 2-minute question, and you would get a further sense of that from all the people who've asked me about it in the last 2 weeks and then gotten a half-an-hour harangue on the situation. But the short of it is that Dave is right. The city has a number of both legal and structural issues to sort through to figure out what the best permanent home for City Hall is at this point. If I had to call it, I would say that it's likely not going to be our original building because that is the least encumbered of the buildings that the city owns and could call home. It was given to us free and clear, and if we choose to get rid of it, we can do just that. I also know that there has been some interest expressed in the structure, which of course gives us hope that it would, because the one thing that I would personally, and I've long been committed to seeing happen, is I would never want to see that building standing vacant downtown. It's an incredibly important structure in a historic city, and I think we need to make certain that it stays a historic structure in a historic city. The issue. I think will take us a handful of months as we sort through legal issues involving both the Trade and Transit 1 and 2 buildings, the ownership of the Trade and Transit 1 and 2 buildings, as well as the level of state and federal funding in the buildings and what the city's obligations are and what the restrictions are related to that state and federal funding. And once we have those answers, as well as a more complete analysis of the upcoming structural infrastructure needs of these 2 buildings, as well as City Hall, I think we'll have the best choice for the taxpayers. The best, obviously, the necessary thing is to do what's fiscally best for the taxpayers, what costs us the least money, but we don't know what that is right now, so we'll sort that out as quickly as we can.
Okay. Thank you, Liz. Gina?
Thank you. This is not a complex issue. The building has been condemned. The building has not had the repairs that it needed to have in many years, and now it is condemned. That means you cannot be in there. The taxpayers should not foot the bill for this building that has been neglected, not for 1 more minute. You know, this is something we've seen with the levy. We keep pushing, kicking the can. We have to stop. We have to set some goals. We have to come up with a solution. There has to be some finality to it. The taxpayers deserve that much. Now, I think it's an incredible building, and it's an important historical building. I don't dispute that. But let's sell it. Let's sell it to a private owner who can have the funds to refurbish it, bring it back to its former glory, and let's replace some of our coffers and put that money back into the city so we can, again, improve our quality of life. No more kicking the can.
Thank you, Gina. Okay, the second question. David, you'll have the opportunity to answer this one. As a steward of taxpayers' resources, which we've just been talking about, what measures will you take to improve the delivery of quality and equitable services without increasing the tax burden on those residents?
Oh, great.
And you got 2 minutes, that's all.
Glad I get to start on this one. The fact of the matter is we're facing severe budget issues coming up this year. So if anyone on this stage tells you that there won't be a tax increase, they're either lying or they're ignorant about the facts. The issue is we have some unknown variables, which we can't go into, on top of increased costs of contracts we've renegotiated last year that went well, but the cost of healthcare keeps rising. Our pension system, we have to have a minimum obligation to our pension system, and those costs keep going up. And if you paid attention to the budget talks we had last year, we cut and cut and cut, as I said earlier. We're down to the bone, so if we don't grow out of the tax issue, if we're not focused on attracting new businesses, bringing in, expanding our population, refurbishing our housing stock, the land bank and the work we've done with the redevelopment authority to enable them to go after blighted properties in commercial and industrial zones. If we don't continue the steps we've made and try to grow the tax base, it really won't. We'll keep on doing the same thing we've done over and over, which is cutting without expanding, and we need to have sustainable growth.
Thank you, David. Liz?
Yep, I can really only second that. There are and there always will be efficiencies in any small city to improve the delivery of services. But David's right. We have cut the staff in a lot of our departments about as far as we can cut it, and salaries and wages increase every year, and we've all seen that, and I suspect, unfortunately, that we will see that a little bit more in the coming year, only because of the situation nationwide involving sort of work shortage, labor shortage issues. That said, I am certain that the city can and will achieve a handful of efficiencies in the coming year. We've actually just completed a financial analysis with a company called eConsult that made some recommendations for some changes to the way in which we provide services. That will help slightly, and they've made some other financial recommendations that I think will. Once we've evaluated all of them and looked at them in more detail with eConsult, may help us to trim things a little further. But Dave's right. There's the city. We have talked for as long as I can remember about how we need to grow the city's tax base, how we need to engage in sustainable economic development within the city. And this is the first time in my 12 years on council that, thanks to the American Rescue Plan funds, we have had the opportunity to actually build on that conversation with funding to commission both studies to see what our best path forward is, and funding to put into a land bank, and funding to put into a revolving housing loan program. It's a remarkable time, and we are fortunate to be here for it, and we are very much looking forward to taking advantage of that funding.
Thanks, Liz. Gina?
Thank you. I heard Mr. Banks say that there are budget issues and the tax increase is inevitable. And I ask, why? I was watching a city council meeting the other day, and they were talking about the Bowman Field fixing the scoreboard, but they didn't know what account they could take money out of because we're being audited. And I read in the paper that there's an investigation over the possibility of misappropriation of funds, and now you're up here sitting here telling taxpayers it's inevitable, we're gonna have a tax increase. Let's not have another study. Unless we're going to have a study to say, where is this money going? Where are the taxpayers' money going? And then when we find out that information, let's not arbitrarily increase taxes. Let's put that money and fix our roads. Let's get some snow removal that's fast and efficient in every single neighborhood. Let's invest in infrastructure and walkable sidewalks that are ADA compliant. But let's not increase taxes when we don't even know how much money we have. That's irresponsible, it's unacceptable, and the taxpayers deserve better.
Thank you, Gina. Bill?
You sound like me. We have a $26 million thereabouts city budget, and the local taxpayers have already paid the $26 million for this fiscal year. And on top of that, we have $26 million coming from the federal government, which the local taxpayers have paid into the federal government and are coming back. So we were already paid taxes twice, and I'm hearing that there's a tax increase is inevitable. I got a levy system that is a huge, humongous amount of potential cost and everything that ought to be sorted out as an authority, that the county ought to take over the levy system, because that river that runs from Jersey Shore through Montgomery on the other end affects every single town and municipality along there, and it ought to be taken off the shoulders of the taxpayers of the city of Williamsport and put onto the county. Opinion. I got a swimming pool that has been repaired 8 million times, at least 3 times in my tenure on council, that people wanted a swimming pool here or there or there. A swimming pool that services people who come from Loyalsock, and people who come from Hepburn Township, and people who come from Old Lycoming Township. Give it to Lycoming County and let the taxpayers spread that cost also across the county. And let's not be talking about tax increases. That's just a bunch of BS. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
Liz, this one's for you. Not long.
Uh-oh.
It's not going to be that long. What do you believe are realistic actions to reduce crime in Williamsport? Now, it may be a long answer, but
To reduce what?
short question.
And an excellent question. First off, I should point out what I've pointed out for the entirety of the time I've served on council and lived in Williamsport, which is that a number of my friends have migrated to other cities since we graduated from high school, and Williamsport is, frankly, while there's no denying that the city has crime and that we have crime issues like any community anywhere in the United States of America and anywhere, frankly, almost in the world, we're still looking pretty good when we compare ourselves, especially to larger cities, but even to other communities in the Commonwealth. And so when we talk about crime, I think we need to look at it through the lens of we are pretty lucky, but yes, there are always things that we need to do to reduce crime within our community. So that the initiative that I'm most excited about, and once again, this is something that we're looking at doing with our ARPA funding, and I believe Derek Slaughter's out there somewhere tonight. This actually is an initiative coming out of his administration, which is that we're looking at partnering sort of mental health professionals with our police department and looking at providing the combined services that we've talked about elsewhere in the country. And we're intending to use the ARPA funding to do sort of a pilot project and look at that more seriously. That will accomplish 2 very exciting things, one of which is ideally allow the city to provide better quality services both to the people making the calls and to the people who are the reason for the calls, but it will also save us money if we have professionals within the police department who are not police. I think that gives us more. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
You said
Gina.
it was short.
I said a short question. Gina.
Okay, so the primary expectation of the taxpayer is that they're going to be safe. They're going to be safe in their home. They're going to be safe in their neighborhood. How can we reduce crime? Well, I think the best way that we can approach this is to deter it from happening in the first place, right? We can think outside of the box. Something as simple and achievable as putting in streetlights in our neighborhoods, because guess what? If criminals can't hide in the dark, they're less likely to commit a crime. Police presence in every single neighborhood is also a deterrent to crime. So we need more police presence, whether that means increasing the amount of police we have or utilizing technology so that we can see that there are cameras outside. And we need to have community policing. We have to bridge that gap between law enforcement and the citizens of Williamsport. And I would encourage the police to live in the city that they patrol. That way they have a vested interest in the outcome of what happens in each neighborhood because they're part of it. They're part of the community. And a funny thing happens when the citizenry trust the police is that they're a part of it together. So I think that the main thing we need to do instead of just arbitrarily spending money is work on deterring it from happening in the first place.
Thank you, Gina. Bill?
It seems to me anymore that in America, when you can not get out of bed without committing a felony. I mean, you put your left foot down before you put your right foot down on the carpet, and you've probably committed some kind of crime somewhere. One thing would be to top down, federal, state, and local level, start looking at what we've criminalized, and perhaps start decriminalizing some of those things that are like nuts that ought not to be crimes to begin with. That's on a level that a city council itself can't deal with most issues. There are a couple issues that city council can decriminalize and by its very nature reduce the amount of crime. Lighten up the city. The city owns its traffic, its lights. That's an asset that the city of Williamsport owns. We bought that probably 15 years ago. And driving at night, as I do, occasionally when I go out and drive an Uber, I can give you block after block after block after block, which, as Gina says, dark, black. And the ones that are lit up, and I hear people all the time, there's no lights on my street. And where do you live? Oh, I live in the blah, blah, blah block of, we won't say, but light up the streets. Go back through your street lighting asset that you have right away with part of this $26.5 million of the American Rescue Plan, and let's rebuild the lights at least in the first couple of years that I'm on council.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. David?
I'm glad to go last on this one. So my opponents brought up police presence in neighborhoods. Police cost money. So when we increase the number of members on the force, which would be helpful, it's going to increase your taxes. So you can't have it both ways. Cameras cost money. Lighting costs money. Now, we have had talks about lighting with some of the ARPA funds. That is something that we've had talks about. You know, and that's the thing. When you're in the room, you get to have those conversations. But I'm very supportive of the administration's effort for mental health individuals. But you just can't have this both ways. You can't say I want more people working on the levy and then not fund it. I want more people on the police force and not fund it. So and that's the tricky question. It's the thing that we have to balance with every year when we go through the budget is, you know, what's the cost-benefit analysis? What are you getting out of this? You know, how much are you costing the taxpayer versus how much we're getting out of public safety? And it's a very tricky equation to go through because, you know, can you put a price on public safety? Well, apparently you can, unfortunately. So,
Thank you, David.
Put a cost on it.
Gina, this next question is for you to start with.
Okay.
City of Williamsport will receive $25 million. We've been talking about this ARPA money. What projects would you advocate for within your role as a city council member in the disbursement and use of these funds?
Thank you. So the first thing that I would do is make sure that we spend this money responsibly and within the parameters of what we're allowed to spend the money on. I don't want to hear that there's another investigation for misappropriation of funds of this money. Having said that, wouldn't it be great if we could use it for the sidewalks, for the streets, for snow removal, for public safety, for infrastructure upgrades to benefit businesses that were negatively impacted by the pandemic? Let's replace those trees in Newberry that we sat on when PennDOT ripped them out of the ground. But I think the elephant in the room is the levy. The levy is still not certified after all of these years. The amount of repairs that we have to do because it's aging. Listen, if that levy, if it doesn't work properly, that could devastate the city. And I don't know that we could recover from that. We have to stop kicking the can on that levy. And if it is possible, I'd like to see some of those funds go to the levy.
Thank you. Bill? That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, but it's not government officials' money, play money. It belongs to the taxpayers who have, again, this year paid double for their taxes. For my personal opinion is to look at any way that I can possibly find ways to give money back to those homeowners and those taxpayers who have paid in literally twice this year. A sidewalk program for people who live out of the community development block grant areas who never get touched by any money that comes from City Hall, apparently. I mean, my neighborhood happens to be one of them. I live on a street that hasn't been paved since 1972. That's almost as, well, that's older than the people sitting here with me, except for me. But,
Older than me, Bill.
But street lights, the street lighting program and going through the inventory of street lights that we have. Fire trucks are an immense cost. They can cost millions and millions of dollars. Buy one or two outright without borrowing. If you can find a way to move items around so that you can use some money from your budget to pay off bonds and interest, and then replace that money we're going to spend with American Rescue Plan money. I'd look at the legality of doing that. Sidewalk program for senior citizens, streetlights, fire trucks. So there are a couple things that
Okay. Thank you,
have
Bill.
value. Yeah.
David.
So if you've been paying attention to what's been going on in the city with the ARPA funds, we had a conversation in Public Works about allocating money for the trees in Newbury. We allocated, what, $2 million, Liz, to the levy for repairs to the electrical system. So
1.7.
1.7, yeah. Well, I think with the roofs.
Sorry, I'm obnoxious about numbers. I apologize.
Anyhow, so we have done that, and where we can, we are shoring up the budget to make sure that we can bring down those costs to the taxpayer. But the most important thing I would say is the land bank and giving money to the redevelopment authority to make sure they can go after blighted properties to try to once again increase revenue in the city. Because once again, we have to grow out of this. This is not a problem that we solve with magic accounting anymore. We have to actually fix the holes in the ship.
Right.
Thank you, David. Liz?
Yeah, I would second Dave's suggestions, and frankly, Bill had a handful of good points too. That one of the discussions on the table is can we, and I suspect we will pay for a handful of fire department items, big ticket items that we were going to finance over the course of several years, and it will save us money in the long run to do that. So the ARPA funding really falls into a handful of categories. One is how can we save the city and consequently city taxpayers money by paying for things up front that otherwise we might have had to finance. We can use a percentage, we can use a small amount of ARPA funding to replace lost revenue in the city's coffers. So we can use that to help try to ease the tax burden on our citizens. Mr. Banks is right. It's not likely to take the form of a tax decrease, but it's likely to take the form of ideally being able to avoid or limit tax increases. And then there's the exciting part. What can we do that makes Williamsport a more livable community, a more bikeable community, a more walkable community, a more exciting community to live in and be a part of? And that's the sort of things, that's the economic development pieces, the land bank that helps us direct the development of the city and create the best bang for our buck. It's it's ideally a revolving loan program for homeowners as well that helps people be able to afford homes within our community. And it's improvements to our recreational facilities. It's all of that. And I think those are the things that we're really psyched about here moving forward.
Thanks, Liz. Gina?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yep,
It's
no,
been a
not a
while. There's
problem.
been like 3 responses.
Nope. We're
think-
talking about a lot of money. We're talking about the $25 million from the American Rescue Plan.
Hey, Jason.
Yeah, I think you already got me
Oh,
on that
I'm
one.
sorry. I
Yeah,
apologize.
okay, so I'm not
Nope, you're
losing it.
Nope, you're not
Okay.
losing it.
I mean, I
Trust
am,
me,
but not
I
for
am.
that, right.
I am. So, actually, this one's for Bill. And this is about, we've been talking about this as much as well. Infrastructure. What improvements on infrastructure such as transportation systems, communication networks, sewage, water, stormwater management, and electric systems will you focus on during your term?
Gina, I sat in one of these one time where there was 13 of us,
Yeah.
and I was number 13, and I had to say, could you repeat the question, please? Infrastructure that I would, again, infrastructure would be everything that the city owns in terms of streets, alleys, and lights. That's where I would be focused. I would not be spending money on consultants, and I would not be spending money as a governmental entity on marketing the city of Williamsport. That's your job, Jason, not the taxpayers. That's for sure. And so those are the basic ones. You got to get back in those alleys and see. I live on a street that has 9 homeowner-occupied buildings that people have been paying taxes in for 50 years with a busted street light and hasn't been paid for 50 years. And there are sections like that all over the city, if you know your city and get around. It's unconscionable. And if you got $25 million to deal with some of that, let's get to it.
Okay.
How's that?
Nope, that's very good.
Yeah.
And just wanted to know, I actually live in a city as well, so I
know you do.
just want to clarify that for everybody as well. With regards to that, David, your chance to answer that question.
Well, shots fired in your direction, Jason. So.
Yeah, I know. Trust me, I'm used to it.
Yeah. Blowing across the
From
bow
me.
there on you. Well, I mean, we've already talked about 2 of them. City Hall. We need to make a decision on City Hall, and that's the biggest infrastructure decision we need to make behind the levy. I was in a meeting with the county commissioners and Council President Allison and members of the county government, the head of planning specifically, yesterday, trying to figure out what the administration of the levy needs to look like going forward. We have two individuals maintaining the levy currently. It came down from something like 6 or 7 back in the late 70s.
Yeah.
And I know my dad worked for the city for 37 years, and when we would have flood events, he would go into those pump houses. So I was in and out of those pump houses when I was a kid. In the middle of the night, taking him lunch, or midnight lunch, we should say. And it's a piece of infrastructure that we don't kind of value. I've been in every one of those, inspecting every one of those cross pipes, and they're in bad shape. So we do need to focus on the levy, and we are focusing on the levy. We are focusing on City Hall. I know it seems tedious, and it seems like it's a drawn-out thing, but unfortunately, there's due diligence that has to be done, and we have several problems with the levy. We have the certification, then we have the pump house problem. Well, the pump house problem needs to be fixed post-haste. We'll go into the winter season, and if we're expecting a bad winter, when that melt comes, we need to have those pump houses functional. That's more important than a certification. Now we need to worry about the certification on top of that. We have to take dual roles on that. But our focus has to be on the basic infrastructure of the city, which is City Hall and the levy.
Thanks, David. Liz?
I think the real answer to the question is that there is no unimportant infrastructure within the city. But the problem is we need to figure out what we need to prioritize and what we can prioritize given the funding sources we have available to us. We are fortunate to have a large pot of money that we can use. The ARPA funding that we can use for a number of very exciting things, but we can also use it to fill some gaps with the levy, and ideally perhaps also with Graphius Run, which is both separate from and contributing to some of the issues with the levy. And I think that those are 2 key infrastructure elements that we need to focus on. Is Mr. Hall correct that we need to focus on streets? Yes, of course. If and when we have the ability and the funding to focus on streets, I would encourage us to focus on complete streets. An ordinance we passed, I think maybe Bill, when you were still on council with me, that sort of bound the city's hands to work on making the streets accessible for all comers when we do work on the streets, which is to say bike lanes. Bus accessible streets and pedestrian accessible streets and sidewalks. And that is something that has fallen by the wayside in the city, I feel. And it does when there's not enough money to go around. But I think that we need to remember that commitment that we made, because we are leaving out a lot of our citizens who are not getting around in cars and who may not be getting around on foot necessarily either. And we need to bear that in mind as we're doing our work. And we're looking at our infrastructure. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. Gina.
The streets have gone wayside because there's not enough money to go around. Well, how do we know? We don't know how much money we have. And then they're talking about increasing taxes. Infrastructure, sewage, water, stormwater management. In my neighborhood, I looked in the drains and I went through into the little alleys, and if you look in, it looks like a rainforest in there. I don't know the last time it's been cleaned. I mean, these are not little things. We need to have streets, okay? I live in a neighborhood where a lot of the people are working full-time, sharing one vehicle. So when I walk my dog at 5:30 in the morning, there's a host of people walking down to like Reach Road and Brodart with their lunch bags. And I'm sorry, but they deserve to have roads that are paved. In the winter, every single neighborhood deserves to have passable roads. We need to put money in there. But where's that money? We need to fix the levee, and they're talking about another meeting that they had today. How many meetings have they had? This has been going on for a decade. It goes back to what I said before. We need to set some goals. We need to achieve those goals. There must be some finality, because it's not fair to the taxpayers to keep burdening them because the city just keeps kicking the can.
Thank you, Gina. David, how can a city government help businesses thrive in a manner that would allow them to contribute to the local economy and create good-paying jobs?
Well, actually, you had a conversation with ERC, I think, 2 years ago about a LERTA program. And that kind of kickstarted a broader conversation we've had kind of in the background and a little bit in our ERC meetings about what's the incentive structure we want to put forward to bring in businesses and help them operate. And the LERTA we were talking about at that time was not just commercial, but residential and industrial as well. And hopefully throughout the city. That's kind of, that conversation's been put on the back burner as we've been talking about how to best distribute the ARPA funds. But the biggest thing we can do is, increase or improve our infrastructure to make this a more livable, walkable, bikeable place, but also provide an incentive structure to draw business and individuals to move here and work here. So it's a matter of creating the incentive structure. And that incentive structure is in part alert, and I'm sure Liz is going to have 5 more points on this that I'm leaving out, but it's essentially, we are not competing with other municipalities. So when we're talking about that marketing point, it's because other cities are marketing themselves and we aren't. And we're in competition with other similar municipalities. So the issue is, how do we compete? How do we compete with the funds that we have, and how much do we allocate for that? And it's once again, it's a balancing act. And we are doing that. And we're very fortunate to have an administration that is wants to work hand in hand with us on this. So we've come a long way in the last 2 years on that front. So we're very fortunate, but we have a long way to go.
Thanks, David. Liz.
He gets all the good questions first. But actually, would you repeat it just so that because I felt like there was something in there that I did not
definitely.
firmly seize on.
I need to hear.
Okay. How can the city government help businesses thrive in a manner that would allow them to contribute to the local economy and create good-paying jobs?
Dave kind of hit the nail right on the head on that point. I think the best thing that you can do for your local businesses is provide them with an environment in which there are other businesses offering good quality services and good quality products as well. That is to say, provide them with a thriving business community in which to do business. Because I work in the restaurant business, right? And in my experience, the last thing that you really want to be is the only place on the block. What you want is a vibrant restaurant scene, because that means that people come to your your community to go to restaurants. Right? And Williamsport, the way that we provide that is to incentivize economic development. The way that we provide that is a suite of economic development incentives within the city. I think the most exciting one that we've been talking about recently is the idea of a land bank that allows the city to acquire particularly attractive properties in the city and market them to the best fit for that property. Instead of simply letting the market do what it will in that context, to direct our own development and to find what's best for a given neighborhood. That's something that you want your government to do in certain limited instances, and then something that you want your community and your business community to do for itself most of the time. I'm not advocating for some sort of total market control by the city of Williamsport, because that would be a wreck. But it's a very exciting proposition, and what we can do with that is provide our local businesses with a good local business community that draws spending into the city and bolsters all of our businesses. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. Gina.
So I have my own practice downtown, and a lot of times when I have a client come in, we're in the middle of a very important conversation, maybe it could be emotional, it could be, the stakes are high. Oh, we gotta stop, they have to go run and put coins in the meter, and it's usually nowhere close to my business. And so, when we talk about this grand marketing scheme, yes, I don't disagree, right? But we got to do something that's not hostile to the local business owners. Let's revamp the whole parking thing. Is the amount of time that they're putting the time in the meters, is that enough time? Should we have some meters that are only 15-minute slots? So if you're just running into the bank to the ATM, you don't have to pay the meter. How about when all those people come for Little League or people want to go shopping downtown, let's have some trash receptacles so you don't have to walk around and carry, you take your, my trash bag is my guest everywhere I go. I mean, that's not conducive to bringing foot traffic downtown. So we got to fix the parking. We talk about blighted properties and you think of neighborhoods and how they lower property values and how they're a nuisance. But I want to talk about downtown. How many blighted commercial properties are down there? We need to have a discussion with those property owners that take all those commercial buildings and do nothing with them. They're a nuisance and they have to go.
Thank you. Bill.
The number one responsibility of any level of government is security of the citizens, security and safety. So whatever you want to do in terms of downtown merchants and everything, you want to make sure that people can feel comfortable getting out of their cars wherever their car is parked, and they feel safe and secure getting to whatever stores they're getting to or whatever restaurants they're getting to, and then coming back. In terms of marketing anything like that, it is not the taxpayer's responsibility to use through government to market anything for any business anywhere. If you want to really improve business, go look back at the business privilege tax that was written in 1953 and see how that can be revamped and maybe cut their taxes. I think history shows that cuts in taxes always results in increases in revenue because businesses increase. So I don't know that business privilege tax has been looked at in decades, but it ought to be. That's.
Okay, thank you. Okay, those were the questions that were developed by the group that planned this evening. Now you've got a couple of Jason questions based off of your responses. They got me thinking while I was up here. And the first question, Liz, you get to answer the first one.
Right.
Oh, yes.
Then they get to pick on me, man. This is not.
No. This is one that
No, come on.
you all
Shoot.
touched on a little bit. So the city's population has seen a decline over the past several decades. And it's something that is challenging on a number of fronts. What would you do, or what do you think that can be done to address this problem, and how should government play a role in addressing this?
The best role that I think the city of Williamsport can play is, when we talk about declining population, I think frankly it's not just a city issue in In many ways, it's a county issue, and in many ways, it's a state of Pennsylvania issue. So these are issues that we need to address from the floor up. I would also point out, and I guess I just called us the floor, but whichever. And, I would also point out that sometimes I feel as though Williamsport's occasional lack of popularity has really been a benefit for our region, in the sense that we've managed to keep a bunch of our beautiful historic buildings that might have gotten torn down for progress. We've managed to keep a lot of our spectacular farmland in our region, and a lot of our really wonderful wildlands around the city, in part because of that Williamsport has not seen as much development as some of the other areas, even in Pennsylvania. That said, we do want to at least steady the population numbers in the city of Williamsport and ideally increase them. That's just a matter of numbers and economic development for the city. And I think we've been discussing within the city a handful of programs to incentivize city residency, in part working with local banks to offer a packet of incentives for city residents, and utilizing what I've been pushing for of late, and it's an idea that I got from the Realtors Association, so I don't want to claim it, is using a pool of ARPA funds to create a zero interest loan program for new homeowners within the city. And I think that will be a very exciting program if we can put it together.
Thanks, Liz. Gina.
So, the government role in keeping people here, the government has no role in keeping people here. What keeps people here is improving our quality of life. I know I keep saying it, but the bottom line is we have 2 colleges. We have all of that talent, all those graduates, and they stay for a minute, get their degree, and they leave. We have Little League. We have people coming from all over the world. They stay for a minute, they watch the baseball games, and they leave. We have to invest in the city. We have to stop increasing our taxes unless there's something to show for it. And the only way we can do that is if we get our act together, if we look at our finances, if we know how much money we have, if we know how much money we can spend, if we know how much money we'll have in the future. And the way we do that is by not misappropriating funds. It's by being responsible with the taxpayers' money. If we do that, if we improve the quality of life here, people will stay, this city will thrive, and people will not just pass through. So that's your answer.
Thank you. Bill.
Keep them here. You're asking me that what I, as a city councilman, could do or would suggest to grow the population of the city of Williamsport. That was the question?
Or at
Well,
least
personally, I'm too old to have any more children, but there might be others out there that could help in that manner. But I could annex Southside, and I could take on Loyalsock, and we can bring in Woodward Township, and we can make that all one big city and actually spread the taxes around. But nobody would do that because that would be like touching the third rail in Lycoming County, especially with Loyalsock getting our police services for free all the time. If you have a nice, safe environment that people hear about and want to come and live, you'll increase your population. If you have a good housing stock, as I'd like to see start building around the hospital, who promised to do that 15 years ago when they got their institutional zone and tore down all those buildings. We were going to have residential for upper income doctors and lawyers and Indian chiefs that were moving from India and Pakistan and all that, and it never came to fruition. I might want to open up some kind of conversation with the hospital about that and remind them of what their promise at that time was. But those are 3 things that come off the top of my head. So.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. Dave.
You're welcome.
So I realized I threw out an acronym earlier with Mr. Fink. ALERTA is Local Economic Revitalization Tax Abatement.
Sorry, I knew what you were talking
Right,
about.
right, and I was looking at you, not at the camera, talking to the wrong audience. So part of what we were talking about with ALERTA, Local Economic Revitalization Tax Abatement, was a residential ALERTA. So when we want to talk about decreasing taxes, it's a tax abatement for improving your property or building a new property. over a period of time. So that's one thing you can do to improve the housing stock, as Bill mentioned, and draw in new development and draw in new residents to the area. And Bill hit on something else that I think we would all love to see, which is regionalization. We need to get our police and fire regionalized before we can regionalize the governments, and sometime around year 3000 we might actually be able to achieve that. But it is what needs to happen. Lycoming County, or we're the county seat for Lycoming County. We're the economic hub. And so we do need those partnerships, because as goes Williamsport, so goes the county. So we do need to shore up the ship here in Williamsport. So getting back to residency though, yeah, it's an issue of infrastructure. We have to have reasons for people to come here. And so I would disagree with Mr. Hall to the effect that, once again, we do need to market Williamsport. There are people who I love this place. I came back here from the Navy, and I left a very much better paying job to come back here. But not everyone's like me, and not everyone's from here. But if we can provide them with the incentives to come here, infrastructure incentives, and those the infrastructure and the community,
Quality of life.
the quality of life. Yeah, and we have a lot of that. But if we can provide that, and then get it out to the people who would come here, then we can really make a difference.
Thank you, David. Okay, the second question. Gina, this will be for you to answer first. We've been talking about it in and around about manner. We just were addressing it in the last one. We are a commonwealth. We have a lot of municipalities. We all are fiercely independent that way. What would you do in efforts to regionalize any of our services if you choose to go that route? What would you work with other municipalities to be able to do that? You can say, no, I don't think we need to regionalize anything.
No, I don't think we need to regionalize anything. I think that you have to be realistic, okay? Each municipality is its own island. How can we regionalize? Regionalize what? Are we regionalizing our first responders? Are we regionalizing our police? Because some are union, some aren't. How are we going to pay for that? Are they all trained the same? Is each individual, for example, is Loyalsock familiar with the city blocks, the alleys? It just costs too much money. Why would we do that? It doesn't make any sense. I think that everything that we do needs to be balanced against the impact it's going to have on the taxpayers. And regionalization, it absolutely does not make sense.
Thank you. Bill.
That's the first thing I've actually disagreed with you on. Regionalization, if I were to regionalize anything, and there was one thing I would be the police department. And I would go and look at some of the models in some of the southern states, like where I originally grew up, and you can look at some of the counties where it's a county police force. And it's paid for by all the taxpayers of the county. And you have one set force, you have one set of laws, and it applies to everyone in the county. And all the municipalities don't have to worry about maintaining their own pension plans and their vacation plans or whatever else they maintain, health care plans and all that kind of stuff. So that would be, for me, one thing that regionalization would be a good idea in this area. That will happen? No. It's like regionalizing police forces and fire departments here would be like trying to get rid of any one of the 503 school districts. They all have their little own, rah-rah names and tigers and bears and lions, whatever the team names are, and they don't want to lose all that kind of stuff. So talk about it, but it won't happen.
Wait, who's the police department mascot?
Hey,
The mascot millionaires, what? Huh?
you haven't seen Paw Patrol? David.
So I live on Northern Hepburn Street, about a block south of Grampian. And probably once every other day, I hear a Loyalsock fire truck with its lights on coming down Grampian Boulevard driving from the Loyalsock Fire Department through the city of Williamsport and up Bloom Grove Road to a call. It is cheaper if we regionalize emergency services. That's one prime example. We also have sharing agreements with Old Lycoming Township for our fire department. So, and that has been mutually beneficial. But that's one portion of it, and then police is another portion. And Ms. Longo was right. It would be very difficult. You'd have to get all these contracts to coincide, and that would be a nightmare. However, you would have better quality of police across all these areas because you have a larger police force. And we don't have a large area to police, but if we could have more officers on shift, every shift, we could actually decrease the cost per taxpayer and increase the amount of officers we can actually have on patrol.
Liz?
There are any number of things I would like to see us regionalize in the area. Police and fire are both, I think, absolutely key items, and that should, to my way of thinking, be conducted on ideally a countywide level, but if not countywide, then at least a multi-municipal level. There's no reason why the multi-municipal area that services Williamsport, South Williamsport, Loyalsock, why that shouldn't be a single police force that, to Dave's point, will both save us money per officer and provide better services to the citizens. And the same thing goes for fire, especially when we're talking about fantastically expensive fire trucks and fire equipment that's replicated across multiple small communities. It's simply asinine, frankly. And I don't, if it weren't for our attachment to mascots and individual, et cetera, there is no economic reason why it shouldn't have happened decades ago. That said, the other thing that I think it is important for us to consider regionalizing because of duplication of services, once again, is recreation within the county. The county has a recreation department, and the county's recreation department, to my way of thinking, should not perhaps be maintaining recreation assets within the county, but should certainly be overseeing recreational offerings. The cities that every municipality up until a handful of years ago had a pool, but we don't really need that many pools within the county, and specifically within the Loyalsock, South Williamsport, Du Bois Town, Williamsport area. If those services were regionalized and evaluated on a regional level, we could save money, we could offer better recreational opportunities for our citizens throughout the county, and we could also make those recreational services visible to citizens throughout the county via a countywide authority. Which is to say, whether we're looking at getting people up to Pine Creek to go hike on the trails up there or bike the rail trail. Thank you. I didn't even see a Joy, sorry.
Thanks, Liz. Okay, Bill, the last of my questions. What would be an issue for you that hasn't already been addressed here this evening that you would champion as a member of City Council?
There's not enough here, I guess. I can't think of any, Jason. There's so much here that already that I wouldn't pick up my flag and fly anything other than the things that we've talked about. Seriously, too much on the plate.
Nope.
Good question.
David.
I'd like us to be an autism certified friendly city. We had a conversation in, I believe, Public Works some time ago about this. It was back in March, to the effect of getting the training for our first responders to be able to handle individuals with autism, people on the spectrum. That's only one portion of it. The city part is one part. You have to have a number of businesses that are autism friendly that have staff that are properly trained to deal with individuals with autism. So that's kind of a pet thing for me, and I've had those conversations behind the scenes a number of times. And the other side of that is the infrastructure you provide for individuals on the spectrum. So you have wayfinding around the city. Wayfinding's been kind of a bee in my bonnet for years and years and years. I've talked to Jerry many times about that. Wayfinding signage, for people who don't know the terminology. This is here and that is there. And wayfinding would be really beneficial for tourism as well. And I think every organization I've been involved with, every behind the scenes conversations always said, well, why don't people who know where to go when they come to Williamsport. You know, if you're on Market Street, you don't know that there's a Tabor Museum because there's nothing to do physically direct you there. So that would be great. And then Liz did mention it, but bike lanes, shared use bike lanes. So bike lanes throughout the city. We have people, you know, a lot of pedestrians. We have a lot of bikers in the city, but we don't have lanes for them. So people go the wrong way on one-way streets, and it creates a safety hazard.
Thanks, David. Liz?
I mean, we're getting into pie in the sky things here at this point, but the thing that has always been exceptionally important to me in Williamsport that I feel really takes a back seat is our urban canopy. We're dealing with that in Newbury in an ongoing and completely hellish PennDOT negotiation, trying to get street trees back along 4th Street in Newbury. But we need to bolster both our street trees and the canopy within our city parks, where we have a number of street trees that have sort of reached the end of their lives within a city, within an urban environment, and we have not, in a handful of decades, really made a plan for how to deal with the succession of our urban canopy, and that, of course, creates so much quality of life in a community, and increases property values, keeps dust and noise down within your neighborhoods. You know, the benefits of trees are innumerable. So that's usually kind of the high horse that I get up on every once in a while, and everybody else looks at me like I'm nuts. But I think it's something that's really important. Both trees and I'm staring down at joy walls and thinking that the other thing within Williamsport, I think the livable community elements are things that we really need to push, and the arts, of course, is the other element of creating a livable community. They're the intangibles, the things that you can think of, things you can put your hands on, but the benefit is not a tangible benefit. It's simply something that makes you happy to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. Gina?
So the benefit of the tree is I don't dispute that. The problem is when you had the most bargaining power, when those trees were still in the ground, you kind of dropped the ball. I think there are so many things. I think that people should be able to drive on paved roads when they go to work. Every child should have a park in their neighborhood that they can safely go and play on. We should be able to park downtown without worrying about an overzealous parking attendant coming in and ticketing our car. Walkways, that goes without saying. Bike paths, that's great. But we can't prioritize. We are triaging things right now because the number one thing that we need to take care of is we need to know what our finances look like. I do not want to watch another city council meeting whereby the city and city council is talking about we don't know what money is where and how much we take it out. We have someone here who's been the head of the finance committee for how many years? This is unacceptable. This is the number one thing that needs to be addressed before all of those wonderful things that would make Williamsport succeed even more than it has now. It needs to be addressed because the taxpayers deserve better.
Thank you, Gina. With that, we've answered you've addressed all the questions that we have this evening. We will now move to closing comments. And Liz, you actually get to start off with closing comments.
I was really afraid you were going to say that. Okay. Let me get going here then. You've heard from a handful of the candidates for this year's city council election tonight, and I think you've heard a wide variety of ideas, both what our city needs and about the things that make our city great. I just wanted to underline that I'm Liz Mealy. I've served for 12 years on city council. I have shepherded the city through a number of important and difficult financial decisions. I will continue to advocate to keep our taxes as low as possible. I will continue to work with my colleagues on city council to lower millage rates where necessary, depending on the budget the administration brings us. I will continue to work to create the best value for our taxpayers within the community. Williamsport is a wonderful city. I've chosen to live here, to own a business here, to raise children here, and to serve as your elected official. I'm proud to call this place home, and I am proud to serve. With your vote, I will continue working to spur economic development within the city. I will continue working to create a sustainable future for our community. I'll continue working with Mr. Banks to keep our taxes low. And I will continue working to build positive relationships and ideally to regionalize within the county. I'm Liz Mealy, and I'd appreciate your vote on November 2nd.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
David.
So last year, Liz and I, along with Councilman Mackey, were that big part of that coalition to cut the proposed millage rate. That we will do the same thing this year, and the year after, and the year after, and the year after. Where and when we can. I think what you've seen here tonight is the difference between individuals who are in the room and individuals who like to be in the room. These conversations are so much more complex and require so much more due diligence and hard work on the back end. So I could tell you a bunch of glib things that sound nice, but this is messy. It's messy work and they're hard decisions. I made a decision that I proposed a cut to an individual of the police staff last year. It haunts me to this day. I proposed something that cost somebody to lose their job, so the city could save $60,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, about. But
they aren't
it was
easy decisions.
$60,000.
Yeah, exactly. They aren't easy decisions. There's no good answers in these situations many times, but you need people who are willing to make those decisions. And I am willing to make those decisions, and I have made those decisions. And with your vote, I'd like to continue going forward with that. So thank you. I'm Dave Banks. I'm running for City Council.
Thank you, David. Bill.
Actually, I think I do have a clue. I haven't been there for much longer than you. My name is Bill Hall. I'm a libertarian. I'm the first libertarian to ever make the ballot for any local office in the city of Williamsport and in the county of Lycoming. Most of you think libertarians are crazy. Obviously, I'm not, I don't think. I think a lot of people have agreed with what I've had to say. lp.org, if you haven't read our platform. We now have 267 elected libertarians across the country in offices like city councils, and we're growing because many people, like myself, got tired of the duopoly, the Republican versus Democrat, where nothing ever seemed to change at any level, federal down to local. Unfortunately for me, I'm also the last on the ballot, which most people, when they go in, they'll pop 1, 2, 3, and so this time I would just ask you, you know who I am. Some of you have followed my career in city politics, and I should have given you a good idea of where I stand tonight in terms of what I think government is responsible to do and what it should not do. And so maybe this time around you actually start at the bottom when you vote and just hit me and go up. So I appreciate the time of everyone who was involved in organizing this. I appreciate the time of all the candidates here, and the questions were actually, I thought I'd come in here and have to throw 3 or 4 questions out and say, I ain't answering, that has nothing to do with city government, but every single one of them did. I was like, very good job, I appreciate it. So November 2nd, I think, is election day. You have 3 votes for city council. Start at the bottom with me there, Libertarian Bill Hall. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Gina.
We've talked a lot about politics today, and the bottom line is political parties don't get the snow removed and make your roads passable. Political parties don't keep you safe. Political parties don't keep your taxes down. I am grateful for the multi-partisan support that I've enjoyed, and my committee is actually bipartisan because all I want to do is improve the quality of life for our residents while keeping taxes low, because they have to stop going up if we don't know how much money we have. I cannot stress that enough. It is not fair to the taxpayer. We need to be able to drive on our roads. We need to be able to park our cars. You know what? We need trash cans downtown and in our parks. I mean, we're a third-class city, not a third-world country. And I believe that with the population that we have here, these are all doable, achievable things. Like I said before, I will fight to improve the quality of life for all of Williamsport, every neighborhood, every business, and every hard-working taxpayer. My name is Gina Longo, and I'm asking for your vote on November 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and the Williamsport Sun Gazette for hosting this evening's forum. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance and participation in watching this evening's City Council forum. This process we have in electing people to represent us as citizens at various levels of government is something that we need to value more. Voter participation should be greater than what it has been over the previous election cycles. If you know someone who chooses not to vote, please challenge them to engage in a right not afforded everyone in other countries. Have a wonderful evening, and please be sure to get out and vote on November 2nd.